rock star.
We are rock stars. So welcome to a Funny Daddy's Talk with my friend John Eckbert, CEO of Five Guys Europe. And I heard we start the Five Guys way and share a burger.
We should. And the right way to do it is you tear open the bag.
Okay, let's do that.
So you tear open the bag and we have a couple burgers here.
What do we have?
We can each have one. This is a bacon cheeseburger with all the way, so it has a number of the toppings on it. This is a little bacon cheese.
Wow. So I'm officially on a diet, guys, because I do the fasten side. But for this burger, I obviously have to, I have to pause. How I eat that? Like the massive way?
Should we give it a go? Yeah.
I steal that. Oh la la. Ah, that's nice. So, obvious question at the beginning. What makes Five Guys different? Because there's so many burgers out there. We have the old school heroes, the McDonald's, the Burger Kings of the world. We have Five Guys, Shake Shack, and all the newcomers. How you position in this crowded environment?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess the first thing to say is that Five Guys is a family business, and so there actually are five guys. There's dad and his four boys, and then he had a fifth son. So the sons are the guys who founded the business, and so we're not a corporation that's kind of like worried about quarterly earnings or something like that. It's a family business, which I think you can sense in the food that you eat because it's the passion from the family that started the business. And they have always been committed. The business was founded, more than 30 years ago. And back 30 years ago, they said, we're gonna make everything fresh. We're gonna have no freezers in our stores. So everything is prepared by hand on the day that it's served to the customer.
And it was back then a revolution.
I don't even know if they knew how powerful that was going to be today, back then. But to me, today it makes all the sense in the world, and it really is distinct. Particularly with fries. Fries are typically harvested once a year. Potatoes are harvested once a year. They're washed and cleaned and cut and then cooked and then fried. And then people serve them throughout the course of the year. That's the way almost everybody does it. And of course, we had to do it the hard way, which is that we keep potatoes fresh year round. And when you walk into our store, you'll see big bags of potatoes. And we hand cut and wash the fries every day.
I saw it, you showed me in the Champs-Élysées when we did the tour.
Yes.
But you also always mentioned the farmer where it's from.
Yes, absolutely. So we track from pasture to table. It's very important. Our suppliers, we have very close relationship. Most of them are family owned, and that kind of forms a nice relationship between family owned businesses because ultimately, in the end, what matters is how it tastes, right? And in cooking fries fresh is so different. It's so powerful. It's such a different flavor.
Has a different texture too.
Yeah.
Oh, I almost forgot mine. I would be a bad sales guy if I don't
Absolutely.
do the ketchup.
The best ketchup in the world, right?
Thank you.
Absolutely.
What is the fries? All of that stayed since 30 years, or there was any innovation?
Very much the same. Well, I guess the other thing I would say is that the meat is very different, particularly for here in Europe. Our meat is grain-fed, which is very unusual. So most of the meat in Europe is grass-fed. So our meat, only 0.5% of all meat in the UK would qualify for a Five Guys burger. And it's interesting because what makes a grain-finished meat different and distinct is that you have this marbling effect in the finishing inside the animal. The lean and the fat blend together. Where in grass-fed you have very distinct lean, very distinct fat. And when you're making a burger, you're obviously blending those two together. So for grass-fed, it's a very kind of forced process. And for grain-finished, it's very easy. It makes for a very sweet and very tender blend. So our meat is incredibly distinct and flavorful. as a burger because
Nobody
of that.
else is doing that?
Nobody else does a grain finished burger. It's almost
Because of costs or why is that?
yeah. So when we came, it took us about a year and a half to get our supply chain right, just to be able to open. And finding a feed program that had a grain finished product. We actually piggybacked on a gourmet Italian grocery store chain that was taking the prime cuts, and we piggybacked on their growing program, on their feed program to start. Now, of course, we're big enough to drive our own feed
A lot
program.
of new things.
But,
you opened 4th of July almost 6 years ago.
that's right.
And
Yes.
you did a crazy growth in Europe. I think we discussed once a statistic that you did the most openings in the first couple of years ever done in UK.
That's
How
right,
that
man.
came.
Well, I think the first thing was that there was such an exciting, warm welcome to the brand. There's Five Guys doesn't advertise at all, so there's no television, no billboards. We don't do any
You have
advertising.
no marketing line on the P&L.
There's no marketing line on the
It's
P&L.
zero.
Zero, yes. Actually, when we market, we pay incentive compensation to our crew. So we paid out more in incentive compensation to our crew in store than we do to anybody in the back office in the brand.
What would that mean? To incentivize them for what?
So we mystery shop every restaurant twice a week, and then we compare everyone, and the winners get paid incentive compensation. So we pay out millions of pounds in incentive compensation to the crew.
So your
every
marketing
year.
is making your crew
Our marketing is paying our crew,
Amazing.
and the reason being is that we want our crew to have a very passionate engagement with the customers who are coming in. We don't have any timers. We don't in our restaurant, so nothing is cooked to a button. It's all cooked to a standard. So we're teaching our crew how to cook, which is why you'll see the Heston Blumenthals and Marcus Warings of the world saying, Five Guys. If I'm going to get a burger, I'm going to go to Five Guys because it's the finest ingredients cooked by people who care and are taught to cook to a very specific standard. So our fries, for example, it's
difficult to stop.
It's not they're not cooked by a timer they're actually, it's a very specific standard, and we calibrate our fry cooking twice a day for each shift because everything changes. The potato, the water, the oil, everything that changes a little bit. So we dial it in just to make sure we get the pre-cook and then the final cook exactly right so that your fry is perfect. You should have a creamy mashed potato inside with a firm exterior, and that's how we cook to that standard rather than to a timer.
But how do you communicate that? Because half of the stuff what you tell me, I don't even know, and we are friends and I'm a regular. So you think it's important to know, or people should just feel it?
No, well, for us, we hire 5,000 people get up in the morning and put on a Five Guys red shirt and come in to work in the stores. But what we've tried to do is to both recruit a very specific type of person who wants to work hard and wants to learn how to have a passion about our food, but then to actually cook to these very specific standards. So we train every day, we teach every day. I'll tell you, Mario, one of the biggest mistakes when we opened was we begged people to work for us because no one knew who Five Guys was or what we were about. So we said, please come work for us. And it was a huge mistake because it's such a hard job. I think it's the hardest job in the food and beverage industry. It's just very physical, cutting potatoes and shaking the fries, and everything is made by hand to order, every order. And so we finally made the switch where we said, okay, we're going to go exactly the opposite direction. We're going to tell people how hard a job it is, and it's probably not for them. So we actually negative sell when we recruit. We say, this job probably isn't for you. It's very hard, really demanding. And then we see, I don't know if you are aware of the myth of Shackleton's recruiting for the South Pole, where it's like long, dark, death likely, but
that's how he got the right
glory if we return alive. Mm-hmm. And there were hundreds of men outside his store, outside his office the next morning. But that's really worked for us because we the type of people who come to work at Five Guys know that we're passionate about our food and our standards and how we cook, and they want to be a part of that. And it's an amazing opportunity to grow with us as we grow. So one of the things that has been a great thing for our crew is that so many of our crew have gone on to be general managers and district managers, corporate trainers, going to Germany, France, Spain with us, so traveling. So there's been such an amazing career opportunity for someone who just joined as a crew member to grow with us. So we've been able to attract the type of person who's going to be really excited about the opportunity at Five Guys.
How many % are girls?
More than you would think. Yeah, no, it's more than that. Much more than
Really?
that. On the executive level, half of my direct reports are
But in the
female.
store, because you said it's so physical, how many females you have?
I would say it's probably 35-40%. Yeah. So some of our women are some of the best, and it's not even like, the guys have to shake the fries. Some of our most, because it's to a standard, and you have to have an eye for it, and you have to have a real care and real care for the standards. Sometimes the women will surprise you on the grill and on the fryers.
Tell us about the constellation, because it's a very special constellation. It's a family business, you said.
Yes.
And your friend joined into a joint venture. You're a banker from Florida, ending up cooking fries and burgers in Europe.
Yeah.
Sounds very weird. How that work?
Well, so I guess the first thing was that it was really important for us to have a joint venture. We didn't want a franchise.
Why?
And franchising is a lovely thing. It works in many circumstances. It was part of Five Guys. Our story in America was growing through franchises. But
over 1,000 stores. No?
Over 1,000 stores, on the franchise side. So there is an appropriate place for it. It can be very helpful and constructive. For us, given that the brand was jumping across the ocean into a new market, we wanted to make sure that the Morels and us were on the same page, and that we were going to be in the trenches building a business for the long haul. And we saw so many opportunities on the franchise side to have confusing motivations at the outset. Obviously, if you're a franchisor, then sales growth is the most important thing. And if you're a franchisee, suddenly you want to cut costs and make money, and so there's this opportunity for different objectives. And we wanted to have a very unified front. Well, one of the most important things was to invest in the brand, and we wanted to launch Five Guys from a very flagship location here in London. And in each market we went into, we thought it was important to show the pride of the brand and what an amazing product we think it is by the real estate strategy. And I think it would have been much harder to do that from a franchise perspective than from the joint venture. But I can tell you it's worked out absolutely brilliantly for us. The Morels and Charles and I have been on the same page from the start. There hasn't been a disagreement from a leadership perspective. No, so whenever you negotiate these things, there's always the lawyers focus on everything that can go wrong and how to resolve problems. We haven't had any problems. It's been a very shared vision from the start, and we've really pursued it just as we laid it out at the very beginning.
How open have they been? Because they were very successful in the States, as you said, over 1,000 stores, and you run now UK, Germany, France, Spain. That's all different market. Did you need to modify it in a way, or did you stay standard, or you had some small adoption?
Well, it's a great question. I think one of the things I'm always concerned about is being the ugly American. And the American, the assumption that you can just cookie cut everything everywhere. And we never wanted to be that. We always wanted, wherever we've gone, we've wanted to arrive very humbly and to look for the response to the product from the country where we're landing. And we really want to make sure that we have local leadership for the brand and the business. So every country that we've gone to, we've recruited a local team who will own the brand in that market.
Give it the face.
Give it the face, give it the language. When we launch in Germany, Jörg, who is a German-speaking, food and beverage, we a friend of ours from some time. He is Five Guys in Germany, and so that it feels like a local brand, even though it obviously has American roots and
But what
an
about
American
tastes
heritage.
and ingredients? All the same?
The taste and the ingredients are all the same, and I will say that part of that is, I mean, it's so simple. I mean, this is the restaurant. You know, it's burgers and fries. That's that's what the brand is. Interestingly, you know, it is 15 toppings, and you can have those free toppings in any different combination of them. It's funny, you know, that's 250,000 different combinations you can make when you make a burger. And I tell
your regulars are very specific about it.
Yeah, people know exactly what kind of burger they want. It's interesting, once you've ordered your custom burger, there are 249,999 wrong ways to make your burger. And only one right.
How often does it go wrong?
And only one right way. So we spend so much time checking and making sure the quality control that we get your toppings just right. So I describe it as it's a very manual, very hands-on manufacturing process. I liken it to a Ferrari engine strapped on to an ox cart that we then race around a track to try and so when you walk into a busy Five Guys, you'll see 25 people behind the queue, behind the counter, making your burger for you, because that's what it takes to do a customized production line.
Every guest feels done, I have my burger, because it's like done for them. And
Absolutely
it was in a time
bespoke.
when individualization was not as big as now, so it was a trend. What are your most famous guests? Do you have any celebrities you can disclose?
Well, of course, you know, President Obama coming was.
But you here in UK or in Europe, you have any?
We've had, you know, we've been honored to have some very famous people come through. You know, we had Adele stop her concert and say, you know, I really want a Five Guys.
Really?
And Ed Sheeran was on the cover of Billboard magazine with Five Guys, you know, surrounded by Five Guys food. Just actually looks very much like we've never paid someone to promote Five Guys. Tom Hardy had a picture. It was a cover of a very popular magazine with the Five Guys cup in front. So yeah, we've had some. We're fortunate to have had some very famous people come into our restaurants. You know, our goal is to let them have an authentic Five Guys experience too. So I mean, it's sometimes, you know, these people just want to have a burger and and fries and be normal, and we try and make sure that they can have a very normal, natural experience in a Five Guys, just like you or me walking in.
When I look at the McDonald's development over the last 40 years, they started very simple menu as you started. They developed very heavy in a healthy wrap salad direction. Then they added the McCafe. So the portfolio is very, very wide now in a typical Europe, especially European McDonald's.
Yeah.
You stay very, very slim, very strict. There was never a discussion really on a strategy level to widen that up, because obviously food trends change. And even, as I said, the other big guys are doing it. The Five Guys are not doing it. Why is that?
Well, you know, it's funny. I went back and found a quote from Ray Kroc when he was asked what was it that made you so successful at McDonald's, and his response was, "We cared more about the burger than anybody else." And I think that's true. I think Five Guys has very much picked up that mantle of caring about the burger. And the Morels have always been told right from the beginning, you'll never succeed without a salad. You'll never succeed without chicken on the menu. And every time they thought about it or tried it, it just took the eyes off the focus of the burgers and fries. And nothing was as good as when we were just focused on the basics. So for us, it's so hard to do a fresh, custom-made burger and fry right, that our impression is that we lose focus, and the quality of everything goes down when we try and do more. So we think that doing a great burger and fries, that's about as much as we can do.
Amazing. I want to pick a completely different topic, the as a continental European, we always looked to the UK and were jealous. Everything what was running here was doing right. You had crazy private equity. The brands were like evolving. Nobody closed. Everything was like, we didn't know how to run the restaurant business, and here everything was right. Now the last 2-3 years here have been crazy. Talking about Brexit, talking about really good brands, competition of yours, but also others really struggling, closing stores. So suddenly the whole industry, what seemed to be not vulnerable at all, got a strong hit. And maybe it's just the beginning of the story, because nobody really can anticipate what the Brexit will bring. You operate in that country, but you also operate in Spain, in France, in Germany. How you see that now, by not just being not British, obviously, but also operating in several countries. What happened here? Because you're also very analytic and you have a strong outside view. What do you think went wrong here?
In the UK?
Yeah.
Well, I think there were several factors. One is that private equity getting involved in food and beverage was an obvious trend, because you could see the success of a Pizza Express, say, that had grown to become a global brand and had great success. And food had gone in the UK, when I was here as a student in 1988, nobody really cared about food the way they do now, and it's been night and day. I mean, England is one of the most vibrant food and beverage places in the world, where people care about the quality of their food, the quality of the ingredients. There's some amazing restaurants and some amazing chefs here in the UK. So it's really changed a lot from a customer perspective. So I think when private equity sees that kind of success, everybody wants to get in on the game. And I think the reality is that there are only so many concepts that you can roll out on a branded food and beverage basis. And what's the right kind of concept to roll out on a food and beverage basis on a broader scale. Obviously we've been one brand who was quite aggressive in that sense. But I think you have to be careful about that. And going back to our joint venture model, our model has been, we don't have like a 5-year window where we're trying to
exit again,
blow something up and then pass it on to somebody else. Our expectation is to build something for the long run, something that we can be proud of and something that will last. And I think that's a bit of a different mentality than if you have a defined window where you need to create value and then exit. And I lived in that world, so I'm quite familiar with it. And there's nothing wrong with it. But I think it did play a role in the UK food and beverage segment. I think the other side was that we've all been hit by kind of the perfect storm of increasing food costs, increasing labor costs, and pension contributions, and apprentice fees. Rents rates are all up, and then food costs are increasing. So, and then footfall is down in the malls, and so it's kind of like everything conspired over the past 2 years to just squeeze that bottom line of food and beverage. And if you were that marginal operator, it just tipped you in the opposite direction. So I think it was a combination of those two factors. One being that food and beverage private equity combination, along with the perfect storm of an assault on every aspect of the P&L.
But that makes now the continent more attractive to invest, and probably it's also you're now happy that you can diversify in so many countries and not being depending on just operating in UK, because you have other environments you can grow your branding.
Sure. No, I'm still a great believer in the UK market. I think it's a great market to be in food and beverage in. And I think there's the fact that we're still growing and succeeding, and and we're having like for like in stores.
90 now or 89.
We have 90 stores and like for like sales growth. Meaningful like for like sales growth in store apart from delivery. Yeah.
Wow, congrats! You're probably one of the only who can claim that now.
But after we've only been here for a little over 5 years, and our research says that less than 40%, right about 40% of the UK has ever even heard of Five Guys. and about 7-8% have actually been to a Five Guys. So we still have
room to grow.
60% of people to hear about us and 90% who need to come in and try a burger.
So how many more stores you can open?
It's a good question. I think we can probably see, clear growth for another 50, 60 stores.
Healthy growth.
Healthy growth over time, over the next 5 years. And then, we think it'll probably, maybe slow down a little bit after that, maybe 5, 6 a year after countries. Something like that. Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about you because you have a very interesting story. You are obviously not from here. You didn't learn the profession, and you ended up running one of the most successful concepts. And there was a quote on the clippings. What I read, it says, "Burgers saved me."
Yes.
So, what did you mean by that?
Well, I spent most of my career in finance, and banking is a very there's a lot of good people in banking, but what my experience was that many times one of the ways that people succeeded was by taking credit for work that maybe you did part of, but you didn't really do all of it. And if you were able to take credit for all of that work of your team, then you could get paid more and you could firm hop. And it was a very individual succeeding industry. And my experience in food and beverage is kind of turning that on its head. And the people who deserve credit for Five Guys are the men and women who are actually shaking the fry baskets and who were caring about, is this fry going to be cooked to the Five Guys standard? And to do that, we have to push that credit right straight down, right back into the store and make sure that those men and women feel appreciated and the success flows through and back to them and to the team. And that to me was just so energizing. And to be a part of a team, I can tell you there is no better day in Five Guys than getting plugged in to a crew that's working at capacity. And when you're part of that machine, that ox cart racing around with the Ferrari engine roaring, that is such an energizing and fun experience to be part of that team making customized burgers from scratch by hand. It is such a good feeling. It's exhausting.
So
it's absolutely exhausting.
That enthusiastic about your old job?
Never.
I think that's the difference. Huh?
It is a difference. But I mean, food is passion, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the trick. To be a part of something that, and you can tell any restaurant where the passion has left the building. It's done. It's gone. And that's what's so exciting to me is to see everywhere I go, whether you're in Berlin or Munich or Madrid or Barcelona or in Paris or in Nice, you see people who really care about making a great burger and fries the way the Morels did in the first store in Arlington, Virginia, and seeing that passion from all these different cultures, all these different backgrounds, and being able to see that translate into different cultures and across the country and across a pretty big footprint even for the joint venture. That's what's been so rewarding to me personally to see that.
What did that mean for your family? Because your life turned upside down. You changed continents. You changed the profession. How did your family react on all that?
Gosh, I think the biggest thing was for the first time my kids knew what I did for a living.
And they could say,
or my parents.
My dad is doing Five Guys.
I think my parents, when I told them I was a banker, I think they thought I wore like a green eye shade and
counting money
and counted money and had a ledger somewhere. And so for the first time, they could know what I did for a living. And so being able to bring my son and daughter into a store and show them what I was doing and to teach them how to make a burger the way we do at Five Guys, it's been great to see them relate to my job, which has been again, that's magic, right? The magic of food and beverage. How it is that something could translate from your heart and into your hands and through to someone else who's going to eat your product.
Sure. As an American living now in Europe and doing business in so many countries, what's the main difference you think in living and working? Because you did both. You did also different career, but what's the and how you also raise your kids? You're still American living here because you're only 5 years here, but you adopt and you're very close to the people. Yeah. How you see that? How much? Well, how much difference is between us?
There's a lot of difference. One difference is that when I lived in America, the top executives at the bank had 2 weeks vacation, and no one took your full 2 weeks vacation. I never took the full 2 weeks vacation
because you would appear lazy.
Because exactly. You were too busy. If you were gone from your desk for 2 weeks, someone else might be sitting there when you got back. And I think, there's something that I admire about that. But in Europe, obviously there's an investment in taking time away from work with your family, with your friends, refreshing yourself, refreshing your brain, refreshing yourself. And when you come back to work, you have a different perspective and a renewed enthusiasm. And I think that really
mindset also
changes your mindset. So, but I think that really works actually well in the food and beverage segment, because one of the things we do is provide people little mini breaks, right? I mean, that's one of my visions for Five Guys. When you walk into Five Guys, something could go wrong. Of course, we can make a burger wrong. You can spill your drink, but
thousands of foods there will be.
We're gonna make sure that we overcome even the mistakes that we make, and so that you can feel that special break from the rest of your life. It's like a little mini vacation coming into Five Guys, and we're gonna give you some amazing food that tastes great, and reset your day just like you do in a little holiday. And I think food has the power to do that, right? You come in hungry, maybe a little bit hungry, and being able to have someone give you that warm embrace of Five Guys to say, we're going to make sure you have an amazing experience here. We're going to make your food with passion, and we're going to give you a great burger and fry. You're going to leave you're not going to leave hungry. We're going to have transformed you in that way. When you're here. So I think that's maybe part of what resonates with Europe so much, is that our vision of hospitality matches kind of the lifestyle of Europe, which actually leans into food and beverage and says, we're going to really be careful about enjoying everything. We'll make sure that we really enjoy the quality of everything. I think Americans can rush through things a bit. I think so. Maybe that's one of the reasons why Five Guys does resonate with Europeans, because we've taken such care to give the best possible burger and fries that we can make, and then
at least they're amazing.
Absolutely. And then we want to make sure that you have an amazing experience when you come. So I think that's a big difference, and you can feel it in the culture that you operate. Of course, it means we have to work with our employees to make sure that the holidays work for them, that's not always easy to make sure the rotations work and everyone gets a holiday in the right time. But it's an adjustment that's worth it.
So what you just taught, this whole passion about food. There's this quote what I always use, like, in life only two things matter, love and food. And this is combined, but I want to talk a little bit about food, because you also travel a lot. We are blessed that we always experience new food and restaurant, and people always ask the guys, what are the best restaurants, the favorite, etc. So what's your best restaurant?
So there's a
favorite restaurant.
There's a place actually fairly close by.
Yeah.
It's called River Cafe.
Yeah.
Just by Hammersmith, and you can. Again, they take very simple food concepts, very simple ingredients, and I've never had an experience there where you don't sense that care that goes into the food.
Very special place.
Great passion. Obviously, it's a beautiful setting right by the Thames. The River Cafe. Again, fresh ingredients, and that kind of.
And passion
that they bring, really is winsome to me. That's a memorable place every time I go.
Obviously, I have to ask you that if you cannot get the Five Guys because you're not around, or you have any not chain, is there any burger you say, if there's not a Five Guys, it would be that for me?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think there's a lot of respect between Danny Meyer and Jerry Morrell. They've been to each other's conferences, and so I think you know, Shake Shack does a really good job. I think in their restaurants. Honest Burgers, another good operator here. I think you know, there's you know, they make a really nice fry. You know, and some you know, some really good flavorings that they use. Big Fernand in France, you know, they make a French approach on the hamburger, which I really enjoy. If I was not gonna have a Five Guys in France, I would have a Big Fernand. But you know, there's actually a real respect amongst the premium burger operators for each other, and I think there's
Because they all take it serious.
yeah, and, you know, and there's enough interest in the burger for there to be lots of different voices and contributions to this kind of better burger segment. And I think it's exciting. You know, to me, we're winners when people have a good offer and bring an interesting voice to the table. So if there's a new operator who's got you know, something exciting to offer on the premium burger segment, I think that's good for us.
I think that the market is big enough. I think you're running the most successful Five Guys at Champs-Élysées from sales or guest count or whatever you measure that. You're running the most profitable one, I guess, in Covent Garden. So that makes you proud, I hope, I guess. How much of that is luck, you think now, and how much is hard work? Because it was not a no-brainer. Although the brand is known and has 1,000 stores, but there's so many successful brands in the US who came here and fail heavily. So just because it's successful there, it's not a no-brainer. Yeah. So how you see that?
You know, I have to really give credit to Charles Dunstan and to Jerry Morrell. We walked around London when the joint venture was just being formed. And they talked about where the first Five Guys should be. And it wasn't exactly the Covent Garden location, but it was pretty close to that location that they said, something like this is the right place to go. And you know, having the guts to pay the premium to get into that location, it was that point the largest premium paid for a restaurant in London, and then to open in that kind of AAA location, it made such a difference to the positioning of the brand.
On 4th of July.
On the 4th of July, absolutely. And you know,
well done.
Without any advertising, we had the first guest showed up at 4 a.m. and there was a queue around
I think everybody knew on the 5th of July that you're there.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, our ops director, I have a picture of our ops director who had fallen asleep in the IT room kind of by day 3. You know, she hadn't taken a break, you know, since then. And the American president got on the phone and called 7 trainers and said, get on the next plane if you have a passport to come to London and work. So you know, it really was that kind of success right from the very beginning that gave Jerry and Charles the confidence to say, this is really going to be something special. We can really go for it and reach for it. And then, you know, opening up on the Champs-Élysées, we're kind of sandwiched in between Louis Vuitton's headquarters and Abercrombie & Fitch's global flagship. So it's, you know, this unbelievable setting, you know, and then you have a 10,000 square foot Five Guys. I mean, there isn't a Five Guys that big. It's across 5 floors, 2 prep floors, 2. You know, 1 floor that's just 2 kitchens built back to back, and then 2 floors for customers, and then a sweeping terrace. So it's
what did that mean for the family when they came? I guess they all came. So what did it mean?
Yes, yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's, you know, it's moving. It's moving to see, you know, the company succeed in that way. I got to tell you a story about we took all of our GMs to Morocco for a general managers conference. Just now, we just got back. And you know, one thing that's so important for us is that the general manager is the most important person in our company. Again, because they're the flame that keeps that passion burning and going inside the store when, you know, for crew day in and day out. So we celebrate the general managers every year, and we take them to somewhere. We took them to Morocco.
Oh, 100.
There were 350 of us that we all went to. We all went to Morocco together, And we brought the Morel family over as well. All the Morels came over.
A family meeting.
It was a family meeting too. But it was a really neat opportunity because early on, 2 young men from Morocco had applied and won the lottery to get a green card to go to work in America. This is back in 2000. And they moved to America and they rented a house with a bunch of other guys. And on the way to their grocery store, when they walked to the grocery store, they walked by store number 2. And both these guys on separate occasions walked in and asked for a job. And they got jobs cutting potatoes, and they went from potato cutters to crew members to shift leaders to store assistant managers, store managers, corporate trainers, district managers, and eventually they now own 7 Five Guys. They're franchisees, and they own 7 stores. So we did a video about them and told their story and their journey from being Moroccan immigrants to millionaires through their Five Guys journey. And we then we flew them over, and I got to interview them at the conference, and you could see the Morel family sitting, and having this story of how Five Guys has transformed their lives and their families and their opportunities. And then the question to the audience. I mean, here you have all these general managers from stores saying, we have employees from 109 different countries in the joint venture. And this is early days for the joint venture. What is your Five Guys journey going to be? It's something amazing. You have an amazing journey yourself to go on with Five Guys. Look at what these guys did. What's yours going to be? Nice. And I think it's an amazing. It's such an exciting time to be a part of Five Guys. Where we're going to go, what your story is going to be is all to tell. And I think it's going to be a really exciting story. And it was such a wonderful thing to see the Morels, who, they think of the Five Guys work family as their extended family. Mm-hmm. And to be able to see how it's touched and changed the lives of so many people all over the world has been, an amazing journey for them. And, they started in 1986. And there were only 2 stores by 2000 and 5 stores by kind of mid-2000. And so all of this growth has been, very recent. And they worked in the stores, labored, did all the hard work that,
so they know what it means
themselves for a good long time before it really took off. That's
why they are so close also to the product and so protective.
Absolutely right. No, they've done it. There's not a job that they haven't done themselves for years, in obscurity, without knowing it was going to be the global success that it is now. So huge respect.
Thanks for sharing that story. It's a nice one. So what can we expect the next 5 years from you guys?
I think more of the same. We're going to be making burgers and fries, and but what I will say is that I think, and the Morels focused on this early on. Customer service, I think, is going to be the most important thing that we can focus on over the next 5 years. When you look, there was an interesting survey that was done in America as to why do people leave a brand? Why would a customer who comes to your restaurant not come back to your restaurant? And I think something like 15% was getting a product wrong. If I get if my food's not right. 70% of the reason why is an experience of indifference from a crew member. And that is so powerful. And making sure that our crews are engaged with the human beings that walk into our buildings, I think that's by far the most important thing that we can focus on. I think we've gotten a really good job of the standards for getting really good burgers and fries. What my focus is on, how can we make sure that energy that the Morels have always had in the store of, there's a human being who's walking into my store. What have they been? We have no idea what they've been through in their day. What are the trials and concerns that they've brought into our restaurant? We're going to take care of them. We're going to bring our passion for the food, but we're also going to acknowledge that human being who's walked into our store and give them that warm embrace, both with the food, but also as human beings. And I think that customer service, if we can make sure that every store, every crew is focused in on taking care of those human beings, then I think we'll
Authentic in a real way.
we'll have something
Being
really
there.
special.
Love and food. Thank you, John. It was a pleasure.
Mario, that
Thank
was
you.
great.
Finally, you should eat, but now it's cold. We need to order a new one.
You know, a fry, the fries aren't bad cold, actually.
That's good. Thank you.